Hello, my name is Steve Brown, and I'm the District Ranger at Stevensville, Montana, in the Bitterroot National Forest. And we're here today at Bass Creek Recreation Area to talk with you about fire ecology. I've got a number of folks here from the fire management staff on the forest to walk you through a couple of different subject areas. I'd like to introduce first, on my left.
Morning, Warren Applehans. I'm the District Fire Management Officer here in Stevensville.
Hi there, my name is Rebecca Fry. I work as an assistant fire engine captain at Stevensville.
Hello, Anna Bateson. I am the Forest Fire Prevention Officer in Hamilton.
And good morning. I'm a fire management officer at the forest who specializes in fuels.
So we'll be talking with you today about the cycle of fire and the fire's natural role in the Rocky Mountain ecosystem. And then we'll bring it down to a more local level, talk about fire in the Bitterroot, talk about fire history, benefits of fire, how fire affects wildlife, different species, soils, water, all of the things that fire affects. And then talk about some more recent fire events in the Bitterroot and the effects for fuels treatment on fire suppression efforts and future efforts going forward from here. Hope you'll.
Let's talk about the natural cycle of fire. Before humans, fire was started naturally by either lightning or volcanic eruptions. These fires would burn until they ran out of fuel or were extinguished naturally. After the fire, plants would regrow from roots, spores, and seeds, with this new growth producing a wide variety of food. As the forest grows, it produces a home and food for changing kinds of wildlife. But as the forest gets older, food for wildlife is reduced. Without fire, dense trees rob lower plants of sunlight. Many die and pile up as deadwood and litter. Fires here burn hotter and are more dangerous. These natural fires allowed man to capture and harness fire for heat, light, and cooking. This allowed the human population to grow. Now fires are started naturally by lightning or by humans. And the cycle starts over again.
In 1905, Gifford Pinchot and Theodore Roosevelt, president at the time, helped create the U.S. Forest Service. 5 years later, they had a major test and turning point for the agency. The Great Burn, the fires of 1910, burned over 3 million acres across northern Idaho and western Montana. Some of those fires occurred right here in the Bitterroot Valley, near where we're standing. On this map, you can see the Bitterroot Valley in the lower right-hand corner with the fire perimeters of 1910 shown in orange. Again, 3 million acres burned from northeast Idaho into western Montana. It was an extreme drought year, and multiple fires grew together, and all rapidly. This event shaped wildland fire policy for the 20th century, which led to the 10 a.m. policy. All fires must be out by 10 a.m. the morning after ignition. Not allowing ecologically important fires to burn across the landscape and selectively harvesting only the larger, more mature trees contributed to some of the conditions we see today. The landscape and vegetation of western Montana have an intimate and inseparable relationship with fire. Fire will always be a necessary disturbance agent for maintaining ecosystem health. Over the last century, this relationship has been manipulated and modified due to land management policies and timber management strategies of the early 1900s. Fire suppression and historic timber management practices led to an accumulation of woody debris and growth in the understory, particularly in low elevation ponderosa pine forests, which dominate the forest types that surround most communities in Ravalli County.
For this Google Earth flyover of the Bitterroot National Forest, the green represents fire perimeters from 1880 to 1959. Yellow represents 1960 to 1999. 2000 to 2009 is in orange, and the red shows fires of the last 10 years. This flyover includes fires that started off the forest and burned onto our lands, like the Mustang on the southern end and the Lolo Peak Fire of 2017 on the north end. In 2000, the Bitterroot Forest experienced a fire season of historic proportions. Wildfires burned over 307,000 acres on the Bitterroot National Forest, 49,000 acres of private and state ground in Ravalli County that summer, They also destroyed 70 homes, 2 commercial properties, and 167 outbuildings. Much of the burn occurred in low elevation, warm, dry, ponderosa pine, and Doug fir forest types you see behind me.
Good afternoon. I would like to discuss with you the natural fire regime in some of the parts that we're living now today, currently in the Northwest. Some ecosystems completely depend on fire. Fire-adapted areas promote plant and wildlife vegetation and also eliminate invasive species that we don't want. It creates a diversity and burns away an accumulation that we get of live and dead fuels, such as branches, leaves, and pine needles. That is essential for ponderosa pine environments. Ponderosa pine environments are normally on a fire regime between 5 and 25 years. When fire burns along the pine needles that the ponderosa pine releases, it helps spread that fire. It's essential that these fires burn at a very low intensity. If they burn at a high intensity, that would create crown fires. Crown fires would actually kill those trees. So at a lower intensity, it burns across the needles, which helps release a lot of the nutrients. When those nutrients are released, it creates a really wonderful plant seed bed for the new baby ponderosa pine trees. Today, we currently do like to prescribe fires in these ponderosa areas between every 5 to 10 years. With that, burning along those pine needles helps clear up that dead vegetation and create new space for healthy trees to grow. With that, we get cleared out areas that end up having a beautiful landscape that is like a park-like landscape. Fire has been a part of the Earth's essential natural cycle, which influenced natural selection and plant evolution. Over time, plants have adapted to these periodic fires. As a result, many types of forests and ecosystems now depend on it as a part of their life cycle. I'd like to talk about the Native American use of wildfire in their own capacity, natural ignition such as lightning, and prescribed. Frequently low intense ground fires, which did not allow the fires to grow large and then kill the canopy of the ponderosa areas, would allow the fuels to be burned, opening it up for grazing and plants to adapt to that area. A lot of these plants were essential for the Native Americans to survive. They ate a lot of these plants, they made medicine out of a lot of these plants. These fires also, the European American settlers that arrived actually never did arrive on untouched, unsettled land that was natural. The Native Americans had always, for the betterment of survival, created this natural fire regime that we now today see and love and enjoy. The Native Americans understood the importance of fire on the landscape for that ecological health and actively set fires during the spring and fall. They did this to improve the range conditions and also keep the invasive species out, whether that was invasive beetles or plants that would then kill other plants and animals in their environment. They set these fires in large plant gatherings to encourage them to regenerate quickly, such as huckleberries, and set fires to pastures to improve the grazing for animals. Some of the benefits of periodic fires reduce fuels to protect human communities from extreme fires, minimizes the spread of insects and diseases, removes unwanted species that threaten species native to the ecosystem, improves habitat for threatened endangered species. Wildfires and prescribed fires also help cycle nutrients back into the ground, and they promote growth of trees, wildflowers, and other plants.
Let's talk about plant adaptation. Plant and animals have developed both behavior and physical adaptations to help them deal with the natural occurrence of fire. So when a wildfire clears an area, it creates a new open landscape for new succession. These periodic fires create uneven aged stands made up of even-aged groups of trees of various age classes. These open spaces allow for new growth, especially for the pioneer species of aspens to sprout up. So let's look at the ponderosa pine. They're very well adapted to low intensity fire. Their thick bark and self-pruning growth allows for protection from surface fire moving up the trunk. Able to heal over injury caused by fire, which are known as fire scars. The seedlings grow quickly in the sun after a fire due to the less competition with small vegetation that may otherwise demand the available moisture. Now let's look at some aspens. There's an aspen stand behind me. Aspens contain more moisture and often act as a fuel break for fire. Aspens are generally one of the first species to come back after disturbance or also a wildfire, making them a pioneer species. Fire helps aspens sprout because they contain a growth enzyme which remains dormant until they are heated up by fire. That chemical is then destroyed and the enzyme is inactive. Fire-killed stands prompt regrowth by root sprouts, and those are called suckers. So behind me you can see a bunch of little suckers in the aspen stand. Their branches grow close to the ground, acting as a ladder, fuel, and allowing fire to spread up in the trunk and often to the crowns of other trees. As the Doug fir matures, thick bark helps to protect against surface fires. Regeneration from seeding is its only form of restoration. It may take as long as 100 years for Doug firs to reestablish itself after a stand-destroying fire event. Some pines, including lodgepole, have closed serotinous cones that only open when heated by fires. And these are how these tree species reproduce.
So one of the other things that fire benefits is the wildlife, and the first things that come in are the woodpeckers and the flycatchers, and they'll get the insects that come in after the fire. And as the forest reestablishes itself, songbirds will come in and they can help distribute the seeds across the landscape and bring in the flowers and the other seeds. And then as they mature, like Anna pointed out in the aspen stands earlier, birds can come in and make nests in those trees as they rot out. And the other one is for deer and elk as they come through. If you look down here real close, you can see where they've been chewed off, and the deer and the elk, as they reestablish, we use that as a food source. And then through the frequent burning and stuff, it keeps it rejuvenated and they like it. But as long as the deer and the elk come in, that will also bring the predators like the mountain lions, wolves, and then as the stumps rot, bears will also tear them up and get the grubs out of them in the spring. It's a good food source on that. And then, as she mentioned earlier, as it matures and establishes, it will actually take the fire cycle back down into it, and it all starts over.
So fire, low intensely burning across soils, which we call duff, and it is compiled of leaves, sticks, pine needles, and other tiny particulate matter made of roots. When that's burned, it releases the nutrients into the ground. But over time, if that soil is layered underneath organically and does not have the duff burned off of it, that release of nutrients happens at a much slower rate. That organic layer of soil and small amounts of duff help retain water to the soil. If a fire burns intensely and burns all of that duff layer, creates a hydrophobic layer of ash, which actually repels water. In that case, what happens when we get rain is all of the soil and ash that is remaining actually will flood off of the hillside after a fire. That's why we support prescription burning that reduces the intensity of that soil being burned off, as well as the duff layer.
So one of the things Matt talked earlier about was management started fires. So we do manage fires here on the district, and what we do is we light them, and we do it under our terms where it slowly does to benefit as a natural fire. Also, a lightning fire can also be managed, and we train over the years to look at certain things for letting the fires go ahead and burn to a certain point or time, and that way they're managed for resource benefit, so it mimics a natural fire. But then if it reaches areas of concern like homes or say lookout towers or historic cabins, we can actually take suppression actions. One of the other ones too we do manage fire is prescribed burn. In the video you will see where we benefit for planting, so it takes off all the slash from logging to clear out the dead material, and they come back and plant new seedlings and it regrows there. And the other one in the video you see, it also minimizes smoke, where during like the Lolo Peak fires we had many days of smoke-filled valley where under prescribed fire it can be cleared out within a day or two.
If you've enjoyed the lesson on fire ecology and learning about the benefits of fire in the Bitterroot National Forest, and really encourage you to get out and take a look around and see if you can notice some of the things we've talked about. And also hope that understanding fire makes it a little less scary, and can really start to appreciate that fire does have a role in our ecosystem, and that if we can work to get it back to a more manageable point, then we'll all be in a better place for that. I encourage you to try and learn more, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop in at any of your local Forest Service offices and talk to somebody. Thanks.
So if you're interested in learning more about this area and the fire role it plays on the landscape, check out the Agents of Discovery mission here at Bass Creek with Fire Prevention Agent Chipmunk Anna. You can download the app at the Google Play Store. It's the Agents of Discovery mission.